Okay, welcome. It's May 25th, 2021, and this is Coffee with C.A.R.P program. Today's topic is modern media, how to stay connected with family and friends. Well, morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Doreen Sitter, and along with Kathleen Spat, we will be your hosts for today's program. A reminder to all attendees that we do record these sessions, so to be posted on Facebook and YouTube at a later date. So if you're a little camera shy out there, please turn off your video, but you will still be able to participate in the discussion. Everyone is automatically placing you on mute, but please feel free to unmute and or raise your virtual hand or place a question or comment in the chat box when you want to join the discussion. So please, everybody, at this time, if you would put yourselves on mute for the next few minutes. To start this conversation off, let's look at some of the impacts and challenges that the past year has resulted in. I'm just going to be sharing my screen here with you. Okay, is everybody, I hopefully can see my screen. Okay, good. What are some of the challenges that have happened to us in the last year and a half? Well, at the best of times, as we age, we fear the lack of mobility. The means to be able to just go where we want to go, do the things that we would like to do without restrictions, without being impacted. But as we age, unfortunately, things do impact that, such as poor eyesight, diminished reflexes, and medical issues. And all of that creates us to be more lonely. The less mobile we are, the more lonely we become. And now with the pandemic, we have now been told that we have to spend more time at home. There is lockdowns in place and that we are required to be at home. So what does that happen? We have less mobility, it increases our loneliness, and we're spending more and more time at home. And all of that leads to people being sadder, a little bit more depressed about their situation, and concerned about what's going to happen. Well, on top of all of that, because of the restrictions that we had, now it was a challenge to find out how to get groceries, how to get goods, how to spend time with our doctors when we needed to, our dental appointments. All of these things created an issue for us, and we had to find solutions to be able to deal with all of this. And of course, here we are. We're having to now worry about how we're going to get groceries, how we're going to do this, how are we going to stay in touch with our friends and our family. And we have a lot heavier level of worry. We're worrying about everybody. We're worrying about ourselves, we're worrying about our family, we're worrying about our friends, etc. And unfortunately, all of that just happened to seemingly suck the fun right out of everything that we were doing in our lives. There was just, everything just around us seemed to be less fun, more of a challenge, more of a chore. And it was bad for us because we are the generation, we are the very first youth culture. We were the youth culture revolution from the 50s and the 60s. We like to have fun. We like to have time with our hobbies and to do fun things. But of course, this lockdown has increased our issues that we have had. So this pandemic has pushed us into having to tackle and to learn how to use modern media, the one tool out there that could help us manage some of the issues that we were having. Well, they do say an old dog cannot learn new tricks. Well, I believe that I'd like to disagree with that one. I believe that this pandemic has shown that we are not only resilient to change, but many of us have embraced this technology in an effort to remain connected with our friends and our family. However, we have also used this modern technology to stay connected with our communities like church and other groups, managing our medical needs, financial matters, education, along with purchasing of goods and services. Well, on a personal note, I think Amazon.ca's latest increase in their stock is due to me. But to choose out there which modern media, which apps to use, it is absolutely overwhelming. I don't know about you, but you look at all of these different things and you wonder, well, which apps are going to actually be user friendly? Which ones can I use to actually help me gain some mobility, even if it's just virtual mobility? So all of these things became information overload. Well, so this brings me to the question of the day. Has modern media improved your life during COVID or not? And if so, how? Okay, I'm going to go back here now. And what I would like this discussion to start out is to try to answer that question. And I know it's a tough question, but let's see what we can go with. Has it actually improved our lives? And remember to unmute if you're going to want to chat, or again, put your question in the chat box. So Kathleen, maybe you can get us started today. How has
Okay.
modern media affected your life? And how have you used it to stay connected with your family and friends?
Well, I think like a lot of people, it's a totally new experience. Finding myself isolated from the people that I most want to spend time with. So I've tried a number of different things. Challenge I have with my family is that my husband and my two sons, they're not big on Zoom and video chatting. So and our kids don't live in this province, so they're away. So so I find that disconnect a little bit. I have convinced them to use Zoom for special occasions. So we've used Zoom with Zoom and Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger is a handy little tool if you're on Facebook. It's quick and easy to use with anybody else who's on Facebook. And so we've used that for birthday special occasions at Christmas time. It's certainly not the same. It's a very unusual experience, but that we've done. My daughter-in-law, she loves to just flip on Messenger and call me instead of picking up the phone. I love that. So I see her lots because she's really comfortable and enjoys doing the video. My kids, not so much. The grandkids, they like it. Again, I can't speak enough um, about Messenger video because I use that to even read a bedtime story to my granddaughter. So it's a wonderful little app that is free and available to anybody. So that's what I've used. I find that sometimes the apps don't work properly. We've tried Zoom and all of a sudden we're not getting good sound reception. And so you fuss around with that. At Christmas time when my son set up the laptop with Zoom, we couldn't see everybody and it was awkward. So we need to get better at that. And I just recently bought a webcam and I'm going to put it on the TV and I'm going to have to figure out how to connect our internet to the TV to be able to use Zoom or Facebook Messenger to talk with her family on the TV, and I think that that would be wonderful too. So that's my intention. But right now, I've got friends that love to Zoom and video chat, and I've got some that we're just in contact on the phone. Um, you know, we'll talk anytime, all day, and that's just fine. But I do miss the seeing people, and so that this you know, having this technology and then being able to see people, being able to see you right now, like this is helps pull me out of that feeling that I'm isolated at home. So that's my story.
Noreen, you've got your hand up.
You know, when COVID started, you're good there? When
Yep.
COVID started back in March of 2020, our family is all over the world. In April, we started our first family Zoom call, and this is with my siblings. I've got 11 siblings, so we are scattered all over the place. And so we've done, since last April of 2020, we've done a monthly Zoom, and then we pass the information on to our children. So then we've had range from 10 to 35 people per Zoom call. And we try to keep it to about an hour. Lately, we're going about an hour and a half because we're planning a get-together reunion in person. But my sister's a teacher in Hong Kong, so she already uses Zoom for all of her teaching classes. So she's got the permission to use endless amount of Zoom as opposed to limiting it to 1 hour. So that has been a godsend, because I don't think we ever talked as much as a family, other than every 2 years we had a reunion, and most people would come to that. But doing a monthly thing has been wonderful, really, with Zoom. And I had never used Zoom before. I know my sister had used Zoom as a teaching tool in Hong Kong for many years already. So she was very familiar with it. So she kind of got us all started very easily. Then with my son is in England, and he connects us kind of as a family with his girls. He's got 3 girls and his wife, and then his dad. And we connect about once a month. He organizes a messenger. So his is messenger, his medium is messenger. And he sends a video of his newborn about every week or so. They seem to send a video, or I Zoom in with messenger, I should say. I do interact with them, you know, live on messenger about once a week. And the other thing I've used is online apps to play cribbage, online cribbage, with a girlfriend of mine who's very ill, and then a brother that loves to play cribbage. So we've got our own little group. You can play anybody, but we tend to just stick to ourselves. So I love playing the online cribbage. And the one thing I've got is a smart TV. And, you know, even through COVID, I have not used my smart TV for any of this. And so that's a shame, because, you know, I just haven't taken the time to figure it all out. And I guess that's another tool that would make it feel a little closer, you know, in terms of a larger screen. So most of what I do is on the laptop. I prefer Zoom on a laptop. And then I do lots of meetings also on Zoom. And I've got an iPhone, and I find that I prefer to see the whole group of people. I prefer the laptop over just the iPhone for most of this.
Okay, Noreen, there's a comment here from Ron S. from Moose Jaw. Ron, you said that you've been teaching computers for over 45 years. And I'm just wanted to know about you. You said you're teaching technology at the Moose Jaw Senior Center when it's open. Have you found an increase in people interested in learning more about how to use the computer in the last years, this last year?
Well,
Ron,
can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Until the senior center closed, thanks to the pandemic, that was very, very active. I'd have 2 or 3 people a week stop by and to learn. And it's almost hilarious. I started working with seniors, oh gee, must have been 30 years ago. I started programming basic with some seniors, and the once they got a hold of the programming, they started doing insane things, mostly obscene, unfortunately. But they got carried away with it, and the same is with learning how to Zoom, how to do video calls, uh, sending messages. Uh, the seniors are amazed, number one, at how easy it is to pick up these new technologies. And when they do, they tend to go overboard, if anything. Uh, and it's kind of nice to see. I started doing it simply to help people because the kids were always buying them smartphones, and they say, "What do I do with this beyond place a phone call?" And it has expanded, but then, of course, come the closing of the senior center, that's dropped off. A couple have contacted me, and we've tried to do stuff over line, but they're people who are getting new equipment. They don't know how to use it, and doing it virtually is very, very difficult. I've tried doing that at the post-secondary level, and it doesn't work well. So they need face-to-face help to get started. That's where family members come in a lot of cases.
You know, I would, I'm really interested in hearing about, Doreen, you had said about, Noreen, you had said about playing online cribbage. I think, Doreen, you also do something like that with your family. You have somewhere some kind of an interactive app that you use, or uh, and plan with your family.
Yeah, actually, I do. We play every Sunday games, and my family ranges from being in Aberdeen, Scotland, to Ottawa to Saskatchewan. So there's a games that we can go on and play with the grandchildren, and it's been quite fun. I have somebody in here raised their hand. I think I'm just not sure who it was.
Doug,
Doug, could you
Doug,
raise your hand?
Yeah,
Doug.
I have my
Yeah.
hand raised.
Yeah.
There, I raised it again.
Good.
Um, yeah, interesting. It's I think the pandemic has certainly forced us to communicate in a way different manner than we had previously, or that. And a few things sort of from my perspective. And at the beginning of the pandemic, March of 2020, we were in South America, and we just got back on about the middle of March when everything started closing down. And then we had a family tragedy happen in April. My son-in-law in New Hampshire was rowing on an ergometer, and he passed away on the machine. And so my daughter was there, and she has three children. And so it was a real dilemma kind of for us as a family as how we could try to kind of support her. And so we used different forms of communication at that time. And one of them, of course, is the iPhone, and I'm sure you're all aware of it. But we set up 2 or 3 text messaging streams, and we sort of just left it up to her, not knowing what she was having to deal with, to contact us on any of these streams as a family. And because we're sort of I'm in my second marriage, we had 2 streams, one including my ex-wife and one not including her. And so we were able to use those streams in order to provide her with support at distance. And then we left it up to her as to if she wanted to talk more with the family, and then we would organize a Zoom or kind of a Facebook call. So those are those are couple of little things. The other thing that we have been working on is my wife had just turned a gold stone where she now receives a check in the mail, and so I was planning for her 65th party here in Regina, and of course the restaurants were open at that time, and of course then they all closed down. And that proposed a different kind of venue as far as how could we celebrate her event. Initially, if the restaurants were closed, we were going to go to the Keg, which was her favorite restaurant. But of course, when I was booking the tables at the Keg, because I needed probably about 6 tables for folks to be able to go, and this was before they slammed the door shut on restaurants in Regina. But I was trying to figure out how we could communicate, because the Keg said, well, you can come here, but you can't socialize. Well, it's kind of difficult to have a birthday party and you're not able to socialize. So I thought, well, I wonder how we could possibly do that. So I phoned the Keg back and I said, do you have a Wi-Fi system there? And oh, yes. So I thought to myself, well, what we would try to do is socialize using FaceTime at the restaurant, which we never did get a chance to try it out. But it's a way, I guess, of using media, and it's certainly a manner that I had never thought of. We could maybe Zoom over dessert or something like that, or over wine, or maybe over the main course of the meal. The other thing we did, or I did sort of independently of my wife knowing, I put a memory book together for her. And that entailed a certain amount of detective work going on in the house when she wasn't around, so that I could get into her computer and find out, because there was a part of her life I didn't exist other than the latter part. So there were a lot of early years pictures that I had to sneak into her computer and into her albums to get a hold of. And there's a little app, a little scanning app called PhotoMime, which was just dandy for going into an album and scanning it. And they have two, it's free, and then you can get a more dynamic version that you pay for. So that's another piece of media that I used in order to scan some old pictures and put them into an album. The other piece that we did do for her was to people who wanted to say hello and congratulations for 65 years could put together like a 30-second video. And my stepson's girlfriend is very good at putting together videos, and so she went and put together a video for us, and put a lot of sound and dynamics to that. So that's another piece of video that we use. I'm going to shut up pretty soon, so I just have one more point to share with folks. The other thing, somebody's got their mic on. You're taking my thunder. Anyways, I don't mind that. The other thing we did, and it's another app. It's called Kahoot, K-A-H-O-O-T, and it's a little app that you can use if you're, say, like on this birthday celebration thing. We put together a trivia puzzle that people who were on the call could try to answer trivia questions on my wife at various stages of her life, and that was kind of a fun game that we used, and it's quite amenable to Zoom and that technology. And you all go on to the Kahoot website. You have to have a phone in order to play it or something, and then you can answer the questions, and there's 3 or 4 answers correct, and then there's an answer that's the most correct one, and then you get points if you answer the question correctly. So that was a lot of fun. And it's sometimes interesting to realize who has the most information on your partner. um, and so that was the one thing. The other thing we played, there's another app out there called Party Time, and my mind is a little vague on that one, but we have used that, and it's a kind of a fun game kind of app and stuff like that. The other thing too, from my perspective, I'm not, I would say, sort of a close family where we're sort of connecting with each other every day or every other day on the thing. My families are very busy. They're all on the West Coast. My grandchildren are all out there. I'm finding the younger grandchildren probably aren't as amenable to this form of communication, or they're not exactly sure what to say to their old granddad or what have you. But as the grandchildren age and as they get into the teenage years, you're able to make connections to either through texting or through emailing and stuff like that. And so I think it's kind of an important thing to be able to do to connect with your grandchildren on a kind of one-to-one basis and that. But I just find to try to organize a Zoom with some of these busy families, and they're taking their kids here and there. It's a bit of a real challenge. And so we connect whenever there's kind of an issue to do. So I'll shut up now, and I've taken up enough of your time. So thank you.
Thanks, Doug. That was very interesting. And you mentioned a couple of apps that you have been using. Diane, you made a comment in the chat section, which I find very interesting, that having used modern media now, that you are actually being able to get together with people maybe on a more frequent basis. I know that my family chat more now than we ever did prior to the pandemic, online, not in virtually, I should say, rather than physically. I don't know, has that impacted other people? Have you found that, anybody?
Yeah, hi, it's Diane. I put that in the chat, but
Yeah.
right in, well, I'm not sure, February, March, right when COVID started, my husband was diagnosed with cancer and had to go through treatment. He's fine now, but my friends, and we're all retired, and I had been on Zoom for some meeting in some organization I belong to. So I just started with the free one, and then we just all pitched in, but we actually met 6 or 7 of us every day, and it was more to support me. And then, we enjoyed, then of course, COVID got worse and distancing got stronger. So we kept it up. And now every Monday morning and Wednesday morning, we check in, and not everybody's there all the time. And so we probably, all of us together sharing, we always used to have coffee Saturday morning. It's probably more often. And I find it, just really helpful. And Sunday evenings, we have a family Zoom with my family, which is not very big by anyway. So I really like Zoom. But the other thing is I do a lot of volunteer work on national committees. And so attending meetings, like the meetings were, I guess say further apart, because it was like a flight to Toronto or Ottawa or something like that. And now it seems like things I'm involved in, we're meeting more often because we're doing it virtually. And so I just actually find that very helpful. The other thing is I play duplicate bridge, and there's online duplicate bridge all over the place. There's one that's called Real Bridge, where you actually can see and talk to the people you play with, which we have Monday nights. And I just actually think that in terms of using technology, that it's been really helpful. The other thought I've had is that people on this call all know how to use Zoom. So that when, I think the people that don't have access to don't have the knowledge, like I forget his name from Musha talked about, that don't have a clue how to use it, or people that don't actually have access to the hardware that we need to use it. Those are the people that I like. I don't know what the answer is, but I I've really found that technology has kept me from being lonely. I have a husband that I live with, so I always have somebody I can talk to or touch if I need that. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to say, that the people that like, I think it can be really helpful, and I think there's a huge population that are unable to access that help.
Yeah, I think you're right, Diane. I know that my two sisters, who are both not tech savvy, they're now on FaceTime, which is just a massive change in the way that they're doing communicating, and both of them live alone. So it's been increasingly important, and both of them have had health issues over this last year. So this ability to even FaceTime with them has been an incredible gift to us. The other thing is just not only on the socializing aspect, but how have people found having meetings with their doctors, either by phone or video or anything? Have people been doing that? Anybody out there? I know I have a couple of times had some medical appointments virtually.
Elaine's got her hand up. Elaine, have you had an opportunity to do a virtual visit with the doctor? Oh, you'll have to unmute yourself, Elaine. There you go.
Yes, more than once. It's been very, very good because I'm under the care of about 4 specialists, and they come back to me with blood work or x-rays or whatever, and they give me the report over the phone. And I think it's just terrific because it's information that I have to catch a paratransit bus to go down to the office, to sit in the chair for 3 minutes for them to tell me what's wrong or not wrong, and then catch the bus to come home, where we can clear it all up in a few minutes on the telephone. Or they can ask for more tests, or they can do whatever they want her. And they seem to have more time to explain things. You can actually ask more questions, and they're not, they're not opening the door for the next patient. So I have found that very, very helpful. The other thing for me was I decided in early March last year when COVID hit, because I'm single and I don't have any family. I have a brother in Edmonton, but he's antiquated, and I've tried to get him to get a phone that we could talk to each other on iPhone, and I don't think I'm going to achieve that. So I'll just put one in his coffin. But well, you got to do something. But through Facebook and making connections, I've been able to connect with I went to a country high school, and I've likely been able to connect with about 35% of the kids that were in grade 12 with me. And it's really, really neat to go back and talk with them and hear. Some have had really wonderful lives, very successful. Others have been not so good, and some are just flabbergasted and so happy to talk again. And so it hasn't opened up to once a month or anything, but now we talk from time to time. And it's really, really, really wonderful. And the gentleman that spoke earlier about teaching people how to use all the new programs, Zoom and you name it. If he ever gets up and running again, I certainly want to be a pupil, because I kind of mumble my way through with my phone at phone 10 for dummies, and I can figure out a lot of things, but I'm sure I'm a person who likes to see hands-on how things are done, that he would be a great help to me if and when we can ever start classes.
It's when.
When? Did I say if? I meant when.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, two items. First, how do you put that that hand up on your screen? That I
It's under
see.
reactions.
Pardon?
At the bottom of your screen
Yeah.
is a little icon. If you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a little icon that comes up. It says reactions. And then if you click on that, you raise your hand.
Oh,
Oh.
okay. Okay, that's
Okay.
oh yeah, I see now.
I see
Okay.
now.
And the other thing that I was going to say is that as far as having virtual contact with your doctors, we've had two doctors that we've had virtual contact with. The first is our family doctor. We've had telephone calls with him several times now, and he's new to Regina. He's not a new doctor. He's been practicing for a number of years in another city. But I kind of miss seeing him in person, you know. If I passed him on the street, I wouldn't even know who he was right now. So we miss that. The other doctor that we've had contact with has been a specialist, and we know him. We've met with him in his office a number of times in the past, and so it's not quite not quite as disappointing, I guess, when we talk to him on the phone.
Yep.
I'd sooner be going back to the office and visiting the doctors right there.
Did you find the same that Eileen did, that they had more time to spend with you, Bob, on the phone?
Pardon?
Did you find the same reaction that Eileen did, that they had more time to answer some of your questions?
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Yeah, he had a tough time getting a hold of us to begin with. Our phone systems are set to not answer anonymous calls, and he was using a phone that was set to be anonymous. So he would phone our home phone and wouldn't get through. Then we'd end up making contact on the cell phone. We've since rectified that so that we accept anonymous calls again. But yeah, he the family doctor, he gives us about 10 minutes on the phone.
Oh, that's good.
I think that's fairly good for most family doctors.
Yeah, right. We've had a couple of other people. Oh, sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I was just going to say, Noreen had her hand up, and then I see Noble's got a hand up as well. Noreen?
Well, it's interesting, the medical appointments, because I've had 3. And the one I had to keep a window from 12 to 6:30 open for his phone call.
Ooh.
And I would rather just go to the office, because I'll never do that again. If I deal with that doctor, I will go to his office, because, and by gosh, he called me at 6:15. Okay. The specialist who called me for a follow-up to my CT scan, he had a window of 1 till 5 p.m. And he happened to call me at 1:15. So in that case, I didn't have to sit around all day. But this, I'd like to know whether people are having to deal with this 6-hour, 5-hour range of time where you have to sit. And yes, they say, well, don't you have an iPhone or a mobile phone? Yes, but I don't want to take a phone call in the middle of a superstore or London Drugs, around my medical appointments, especially when I'm looking at medical records in front of me, that are confidential. I don't want to discuss that.
Right.
Well, one experience we had in terms of long windows, our specialist had given us a window, a fairly large window in the afternoon when he would phone. He ended up phoning in the morning. So it was,
now the third doctor actually gave me an appointment time, okay, at 1:30, and she called me at 1:30. So it has been a whole range, but this business of keeping a window 4 or 5 hours, I think that's BS, Mike, quite frankly, because you don't even have to wait in the doctor's office that long.
Right.
My experience has been I get a time of 1:15 or 2:15 and he phones at 1:15 or 2:15. He's just smack on time. So you don't need to worry about that. I call that poor administration by a doctor when they keep us waiting.
Yeah.
I think, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Good. Noble? Noble, you had the question or you want to comment? Noble?
You'll have to unmute Noble.
Can you unmute Noble, please?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Go ahead, Noble. We're not hearing you. I don't know whether or not it's your video or your sound. We're not hearing. Could you maybe type in your question or your comment, Noble, into the chat box? Because we're not hearing you. Okay. We'll move forward from that one. We'll
Okay. Let's move on to Diana. Diana has her hand up.
Okay.
Hi, yeah, one of the committees I was on, it was out of Ontario, but it was making recommendations to their Ministry of Health about virtual care, and that's why I got on my little speech about the people that don't have access, because that was one of the big things. But the other thing out of it, and I think it's really important for people that have benefited from phone calls or video calls here, is that our practitioners' ability to do that has to do with the billing codes, and it wasn't until they changed the billing codes. And so our primary care practitioner, we've had, I don't know how many phone call appointments with him, and it's like, I forget who just said, he says 1:30 and it's 1:30. Sometimes it's earlier and we're not quite organized, but we've never had anybody give us a range. When my husband was first having chemo, the oncologist in charge of his care had actual virtual teleconferences, and it would be for whatever, 10 o'clock. So we're sitting there watching an empty boardroom, but not long, like 10 minutes maybe. And so there were a couple of those. I also had 3 amazing physiotherapy appointments for myself. I'd been sitting with my legs crossed playing bridge one night. I stood up, my foot was like numb, and I fell off my sandal and really wrecked my ankle. Anyway, but we did the whole physio appointments with a video conference. She would put her laptop down on the floor and show me what to do with the exercises. I'd stick my leg up. So I really think that it's important that we still have access to video, to virtual care. And I think that the thing is, when you phone to make an appointment, like there needs to be some sort of fairly expert triaging by the person that answers the phone. Because you say, I want a phone call. Well, maybe you've got something wrong that they absolutely need to look at it and see it. So anyway, I can go on and on, but I really think there's great benefits. I listened to a webinar, it was a Saskatchewan one, and it was a surgeon who said that probably over 50% of his post-operative checkups could be done virtually, that, depending on what the surgery was. So I think that's another great benefit that's happened in healthcare. And it's not like everything cannot be virtual, nor should it be, or like where that couple go, he misses seeing the guy and he would never, and you need that face-to-face, that connection kind of thing. But our care providers need to be reimbursed the same way as if they came to the office, because it saves us money for travel and time and everything. Okay.
I agree. Chuck, you have your hand up.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Our experience is my wife used to play Scrabble on a Friday morning. She now has a Zoom Scrabble chat. They're not playing Scrabble, but they are having visits, and it's you send the notice out and whoever is available is there, so you're not committed to it, but the group varies all the time, and they have a member from Ontario that joins them. I had a Friday night we called it Bunch Quitters. We'd go for a beer. It's a group of guys who would groom ski trails, that sort of thing. And we still meet. And again, it's always as availability. I belong to a garden club and we use Zoom now, and we're getting members from Estevan and different areas joining our club because they don't have to drive. They can just enjoy the presentations. Because you had Sheila, I think, on one of your more recent calls. Yes. And we have had Sheila a couple of times this year, etc. I've done some of the U of S webinars to do with various gardening things. Family-wise, we always FaceTimed with our grandsons in Calgary, which is continued. What we've done is we now have a family text group. So we've got people in La Ronge, Saskatoon, Calgary, ourselves, and share weather and happenings, power outages due to forest fires in PA, whatever, and kind of the details. And everybody gets the information right away. We also now do nightcaps. So where somebody will say, are we free for a nightcap? And our son has access to Teams. If we don't use Teams, we use FaceTime, and we all get on and you sit and have a quick visit and a catch up. And usually there's a glass of wine or a Caesar or something in people's hands. And it's sort of like we would be in the same room, but not. Yeah. At New Year's, we did a thing where we passed out for a game cards to our 3 sets of our neighbors, and we played games and socialized, not knowing how long it would last. Most people stayed up way later on New Year's Eve than they had ever anticipated. So it actually turned out to be a fun and good event, even though we were all in our individual homes. So there's lots of different things that, you know, we've been doing. Yeah. And the big thing is getting over actually logging on and using Zoom. And we have some friends who just refuse to use it. So it's their choice. It's just, there is a world out there that could open up to them if they chose to use it.
Yeah, absolutely, Chuck. Noble, did you get your audio working? Okay, not really. Anyways, I'm just going to go to another. No. Oh, Noble, is that you? Okay. I'm just going to share my screen for a brief second here, because we've had actually a really good discussion here. But what I'm wondering about is how, once this pandemic, and God forbid that it ends soon, but how are you going to use the technologies that we have embraced during this pandemic going forward, whether it be for your home life and consumption of a certain task like grocery buying or whatever, your health and well-being, even socializing, contacting people, your mobility and getting goods to you, or even infotainment, which is keeping informed and entertained through modern media. So obviously we're going forward here, and this pandemic will end and we will start being able to socialize more. Do you feel that your families will continue using some of the techniques and these apps that you've come up, that we've been using in the past year to stay connected in the future? Anybody?
Chuck, it looks like Chuck is Noble. Your mic is open. You can talk if you want and share your views. We see that your hand is up.
You can hear me?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Noble.
Good, thanks. Just a couple of things. My oh, now I've got you on double now. Oh, okay. my family live in other parts of Canada, and we go on a Zoom meeting every Sunday. And so I get to see my granddaughter who's in Kelowna, my grandson who's in Edmonton, my son in Cameron, etc., etc. And we found that marvellous because before the COVID, I only ever saw them once a year, if that. Now I see them every month. The other question is that I do a lot of genealogy, and one of my people that I deal with is asking, do I know anybody of the name of Kendall, Kendalls, because that's a relation of hers, and also Hunder, Hunder. So if anybody has any friends or relatives or wherever by them names, if they could give me a call, my telephone number is 306 563 1400. Thank
Okay,
you.
Sharon, if you could type that phone number into the chat, that people could see it. But again, Noreen, are you going to be utilizing technology going forward to enhance your life?
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. It's been marvelous.
That's good.
Excellent.
Noreen?
Yeah, I don't think we'll probably not do the family Zoom once a month, but I'm hoping we'll keep that up. I don't think we'll reduce it as much. I personally won't do the medical appointments much by phone calls.
Yeah.
I don't do purchases online, like groceries, yes, Amazon sort of thing. I think the thing I would want to go to in person particular is concerts. I don't particularly like the online concerts, you know, the single performer. I like being in the crowd. So a mixed bag.
Yeah, one of the things that I found over this last pandemic is I do ESL, English as a second language, and I find that that's been extremely positive. Like I worked through the library, and I found it to be extremely positive to be able to facilitate an ESL class, as well as I have taken classes through the university in lifelong learning, and I have found that both of those things are very helpful because, and I'm hoping that those would continue going forward because, you know, there's just sometimes when it's 30 below and 40 below, I don't mind being at home. But I would still like to participate in some things. So I think it may open up opportunities that didn't necessarily exist prior that, and especially, and I will put a plug in, for C.A.R.P Saskatchewan. The whole reason that we've decided that we can go provincial wide is that the use of Zoom gives us that opportunity to connect with people all over Saskatchewan and bringing like-minded people together and bringing up things and issues that affect us as we grow older, and having that camaraderie and also that support together to try to push different things that would enhance our lives as seniors in Saskatchewan. So it's been a really very interesting conversation. Anybody else think about how they're going to utilize technology going forward?
Chuck has got his hand up. Chuck,
Sure.
if you'd unmute, please.
Chuck? You said definitely you're going to use it going forward. Why definitely?
Sorry, I was having trouble finding my mute switch. I knew where to look, I just couldn't see it.
Okay.
Well, I think because we used it before, so we've increased some of the use and changed some things because of COVID. But going forward, because we're spread all over, it's just an easy way to keep in touch.
Yeah.
And I guess the one thing for us is 2 of our children spend most of their day currently on Zoom calls or Teams calls or meetings, and they've pretty much had it up to, you know, at the end of the day, they don't want to do it again, but they'll do it just because it's family, that sort of thing. Once they can get back to the office and actually see people, then won't be as much a chore, shall I say. I will say that when we're on a Zoom call as a family, the laughter and the jokes and the kibitzing is pretty close to being in the same room. So I think that we'll continue using it, maybe not quite as often, but it'll still be a part of our lives.
One of the things, the benefits that I have found too, is that you can participate in things that you wouldn't normally. We've attended a virtual wedding. I've gone to a virtual funeral. So there is this type of technology that allows us to become more connected. And I think there is a balance between the fact of being physically able to be there and maybe lacking the mobility to be there still allows you the opportunity to be there virtually. So even like church services, etc. And I think those types of technologies I would really like to see continue, because I do feel that it is a tool that we can use to combat that loneliness when we have less mobility as we age. Okay. Anybody have any more statement to make before I think we're drawing very close to the end of our hour. So anybody? Otherwise, I'll wind up for the day. If you want to have any ideas on topics that you would find interesting to know more about, or welcome a chance to chat about over coffee, because this has been fun, please forward to sk@carp.ca. Attention, Coffee with C.A.R.P. And if you're interested in learning more about C.A.R.P. and what we do and getting involved, send us an email into the same address, sk@carp.ca. Please feel free to let others know about this new program in Coffee with C.A.R.P. Our next session will be on June the 8th at 10 a.m. and it is entitled Downsizing, How to Preserve Memories While Decluttering. Well, that should be an interesting one, if nothing else. I will leave you with a quote from the motivational speaker, Tony Robbins. The way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives. So till we meet again on Coffee with C.A.R.P., keep smiling and stay safe. Coffee with C.A.R.P. is sponsored by Zoomer Wireless. So for information on a new phone or tablet or cell service, please check them out at zoomerwireless.ca. Okay, until we meet again in the next 2 weeks, goodbye everybody and have a wonderful, hopefully not too wet day. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye, Doreen.
Bye, thank
Stay
you.
safe.
No problem.
Point.
Okay, and we'll end the recording, please.
I'll end the recording.
Yes,
Okay.
please.